And here we are with show 5, the Great Circles of Eternity. We're going to be doing creation 1.5 and 1.6. And this is, I guess you could say, the light speed episode.
Good name.
Just a quick look ahead.
All right. What does it mean when we read God is light? The Egyptians felt this light was something tangible from which the material universe was created, which leads us to the question, how was the universe created? And is there an end of time when the universe will cease to exist?
Cease to exist as in not being there at all or changing form? That is the question in my mind. So with that, let me read Creation 1.5 and 1.6. He who preceded all existed alone in his strange abode of uncreated light, which remains ever inextinguishable, and no understandable eye can ever behold it. The pulsating draughts of the eternal light in his keeping were not yet loosed. He knew himself alone. He was uncontrasted, unable to manifest a nothingness, for all within his being was unexpressed potential. The great circles of eternity were yet to be spun out, to be thrown forth as the endless ages of existence in substance. They were to begin with God and return to Him, completed in infinite variety and expression. There's that one phrase in Creation 1.6, the great circles of eternity. And that was something that connected with me from the very beginning. When I first started reading the Kolbrin, I wanted to debunk it. But when I came to the great circles of eternity, I couldn't do that anymore. That just connected with me at such a visceral level. So let's break this down. We have a lot of work to do because we have 2 excellent passages. And I'm going to start with creation 1:5:1. He who preceded all existed alone in his strange abode of uncreated light, which remains ever inextinguishable, and no understandable eye can ever behold it.
The word light here is an attempt to describe what we don't understand with a word that fits into our language. We can do that a lot, you know. Created light will become the empowerment of God to enact His desires. Now, that's not quite our normal definition of light. This uncreated light is it's not simply just a light source. It's an energy source by which God carries out His direction. This type of energy is apparently dangerous for us to behold. Perhaps, as we discussed on a previous show, when Moses approached God as an energy source, perhaps that's what he's talking about.
I've been really contemplating this a lot since we started this particular analysis. And when I think of the void, I'm just thinking of a thin soup, if you will, of dark energy and dark matter. And that's it. And this is larger than anything else. In other words, there is the void, then there is God within the void, then within God is creation, and within creation is us. But the void is larger than anything else. And it's a very hostile and alien environment that would certainly hurt us. Anything that could manipulate dark energy and dark matter is something that, frankly, would defy the physical laws of our own galaxy, from my point of view. And that's my take on the void. Hope that helps.
Thank you. Yep, thank you very much.
All right. And with that, Let's go to Creation 152.
The pulsating draughts of the eternal light in his keeping were not yet loosed.
Eternal life light. Very important energy source for everything created. Science calls unintelligent energy destined to become matter the ether. It is believed that when the eternal life light mixes with ether, it quickens a response from the ether to become matter, and in this way, material worlds are created. Max Planck, a famous quantum physicist, the one who discovered what we know as Planck's constant, said these important words: "There is no matter as such. All matter originates and exists only by virtue of the force. We must assume behind this force is the existence of a conscious and intelligent mind. This mind is the matrix of all matter." I think that's a very important statement.
I think so too. Makes me wonder, was George Lucas reading Planck before he wrote Star Wars?
I don't know. Maybe we'll find out in this show.
Maybe. Okay. Well, let's get into Creation 153.
He knew himself alone. He was uncontrasted, unable to manifest in nothingness, for all within his being was unexpressed potential.
He's established himself as alone. He is starting to experience something called loneliness. And there was nothing to compare him to at all because he was in the void. He had already rushed about trying to find if there was something else out there at all. And there wasn't. There wasn't anything else in the void with him. An empowerment had not yet occurred in him. He couldn't affect change yet, either in the state of uncreated light nor the beginning of time through the creation of matter. He was getting frustrated. Can you get this picture? An important change needed to take place with himself. Loneliness, I think, develops the desire for companionship. And I take that because we were created in his image, and we can get an idea of how he might have felt there. And this desire to provide good and perfect gifts for his companions, it spawns the character quality of love for those who he so greatly desires to dwell with.
Wow. Loneliness is a powerful force.
Indeed.
Wow. Well, then with that, let's move ahead to the first verse of 1:6.
The great circles of eternity were yet to be spun out, to be thrown forth as the endless ages of existence in substance.
The great circles of eternity are referenced in a text called Urantia, which is claimed to be the fifth dispensation of wisdom to humans here on earth from God's messengers. It is just a collection of papers whose authors claim to be ministering angels that assist in the development of humans here on earth. In this text, it speaks of 7 great circuits or circles of eternity. Within each of these circuits exists a superverse, or as science calls it, a multiverse that contains countless life forms. Each circuit is farther from the center than the previous. This verse states endless ages of existence in substance. Should we interpret this as eternal? This is kind of a reference back to the question, is there an end to matter? If it is eternal, regardless of our position on expanding, stationary, or contracting universes, the substance will remain forever. This is very interesting due to a statement in the next verse, which says, if I may.
Okay. Let's go to Creation 1:6-2.
They were to begin with God and return to him, completed in infinite variety and expression.
Here they return to him completed. Yet the previous verse seems to say they are eternal. We can build science on this kind of stuff, Marshall.
Yes.
If understood correctly, it points us in the right direction in building our foundation of knowledge. We have seen how they begin with God, but how do they return to God? In Creation 1:4, we previously read about the great being who is the beginning and the end beyond time. If there's an end to time and matter, this statement, return to him completed, would make sense. However, we would have to assume that endless ages in Creation 6:1 references a seemingly very long time and not eternity. And so, to solve this problem, we have to ask the question of God. Will there come an end to our universe?
Yeah, it's a good question. Makes you want to listen to Peggy Lee singing Is That All There Is? So this is something where I just feel like we're stuck on a fence, if you will, where we have this mortality and material grappling at a human level, but on a cosmic level, that grappling is very insignificant. How do you relate the two?
Yeah, I agree.
So this could be something that's more about questions the ancients were asking of themselves than anything else.
How so? What kind of asking themselves?
Well, they keep coming back to the end, the end, the end, the end.
Mm-hmm.
And they're grappling with that. If the void existed before Creator, the void will exist after Creator, assuming that there is an end of Creator. But Creator is pure consciousness, pure energy. So Max Planck would tell us what about that?
Well, he would tell us that once that spiritual energy is set in motion, that it would be eternal.
There you go. Well,
so that's us trying to understand what we cannot yet understand. Is that a good example of that?
It is. Max was a pretty smart guy, had a whole institution named after him.
There you go. He did.
All right. Well, then let's move on to our God question. And this brings us to the God question. And I think, Dan, when you sent me this, it really drove home to the point. Share it with our viewers out there.
Our question comes from Creation 1:6-2. They were to begin with God and return to him completed in infinite variety and expression. And my question to God would be, God, will there ever be a time when our universe ceases to exist?
The right question at the right time. I love it. Okay.
It's a good one. I'm real anxious to hear the reading on this one.
You and me both. And with that, I have the reading from the previous show, show number 4.
God, what was your greatest expectation from creation of the material worlds?
Companionship, love, and the creation of worlds for which spiritual evolution of sentient species is continued in perpetual harmony before, during, and beyond physical embodiments, wherever prevailing conditions serve personal evolution and growth through experiencing material manifestations.
For the first time, we're talking about the beginning or the end of time in terms of companionship and harmony and these things. Was there something in the reading that really jumped out at you?
Companionship was a big one, Marshall, and the spiritual evolution of a sentient species continued in perpetual harmony Before, during, and beyond physical embodiments. Now, that says before we're incarnated, during our incarnation, and after the incarnation. So it tells me I existed prior to being incarnated, while I'm incarnated, and I'm going to exist after I'm incarnated. That's a big leap for a lot of people out there who perhaps haven't studied incarnations and the eternal nature of a spirit.
That's right. And it'll be a difficult and challenging one for folks that believe there is no such thing as reincarnation. I personally believe in it. And this one really does, what Creator is saying is material manifestations.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, it's plural. We have multiple lives, not just one.
That's what I'm reading. That's what I'm seeing from it.
That's what I'm seeing too. Well, that, I think, gets us to the point where we can move beyond the chicken and the egg, right?
I hope so.
All right, because in our next show, show number 6, The Desire to Create, we're going to be taking a look at Creation 1:8. Dan, give us a heads up on that.
All right. Have you ever thought about the possibility that a God experiences frustration or loneliness, much in the same way that we do? We're going to talk about that in this show, and we seemingly find an answer to the age-old question of why are we here?
Well, that's a good question because it makes us want to be there.
That's a big one.
We show 6, The Desire to Create.
I'll see you there.
You got it.